From time immemorial, cultures around the globe told stories about how creation unfolded. Such traditions always number among a culture's most treasured possessions and typically served as exemplary paradigms underlying social norms and all prominent rituals having to do with kingship, funerals, marriage, warfare, etc. Simply put, it is impossible to understand the origin of human civilization apart from a proper understanding of the wellsprings of creation myth. My latest book, The Case of the Turquoise Sun, A Natural History of Creation, offers a comparative study of the creation myths from ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, Vedic India, and several indigenous cultures from the New World. The message is everywhere the same. Creation was remembered as a series of catastrophic natural events and firmly believed to have actually occurred at the time of beginning. These catastrophic events, in turn, involve neighboring planets moving in close proximity to Earth. In this video, we will discuss a particularly fascinating creation account from ancient Egypt. Ev Cochrane, the dean of Egyptologists, emphasized the importance of iconic images in ancient Egyptian thought. Quote, "Whoever wishes to understand ancient Egyptian culture, and especially its religion and way of thinking, must learn the language of images." End of quote. As a case in point, consider the archaic image of the primordial sun appearing atop a lotus flower at the time of creation. Thus it is that a passage from the Coffin Texts describes Horus's inaugural appearance during the tumultuous natural events attending the primeval separation of heaven and earth, a pivotal juncture in cosmogonic myths around the globe. Quote, "The earth opens its mouth. Geb throws open his jaws on my account, and I will raise up Horus preeminent on his lotus flower." End of quote. The nascent sun's appearance atop the lotus is celebrated again and again in Egyptian texts, albeit always in elusive terms. A hymn from the Egyptian Book of the Dead invokes the youthful sun god as follows. Quote, "Hail, child, shining one who rises from the lotus, fair youth who goes out from the horizon, who illuminates the world with his sunshine." End of quote. The fact that the very same idea is alluded to in religious texts from Edfu, inscribed over 1,000 years later, attests to the stubborn conservativeness of Egyptian religion. Quote, "Conceived in the ocean, born in the flood, a lotus came forth in which was a beautiful child who illumines the land with his rays." End of quote. In addition to its role in archaic cosmogonic myth, the Horus-child atop a lotus flower represents a popular theme in Egyptian religious iconography as well. Thus it is that a famous sculpture from the tomb of King Tut shows the youthful sun god emerging from a lotus flower. The question is, what does this image signify? According to Horning, quote, "The sun god on a lotus blossom was an image of the first emergence of shapes at the creation." End of quote. James Allen offered a very similar assessment of the archaic traditions attached to the lotus. Quote, "One of the images of the first place in which the sun arose." End of quote. Yet why an infant child sitting atop a lotus should be an archetypal symbol of creation is rarely addressed by Egyptologists and has never received a satisfactory answer. At no point is the elephant in the room addressed, namely, where in all of heaven is a lotus-like flower to be found in the immediate vicinity of the sun? Upon failing to find a concrete reference in the familiar sky that would explain the archaic image of Horus atop a lotus, Egyptologists typically resort to metaphor and abstractions. According to Maria Betro, author of a standard text on hieroglyphics, the image is a product of Egyptian imagination. Quote, "The Egyptians imagined the blossom that opened each morning above the waters as the crib of the sun of the primordial morning." End of quote. Really? Is this the best answer the top experts are capable of coming up with? The superficiality of such explanations is evident at once and discredited by the fact that cultures around the globe preserved analogous traditions. In ancient India, for example, it was believed that the creator sat atop a lotus as the primordial sun. Witness the Birhor tradition that the sun first appeared atop a lotus after climbing its stalk. Clearly, something more is at work here than mere creative imagination and/or analogical reasoning. If we take our cue from ancient artworks purportedly depicting the sun, an obvious answer presents itself. The lotus likely has reference to the petaloid forms associated with the sun in iconic images around the globe, many of which occur in prehistoric contexts. Consider a Syrian cylinder seal, which shows what appears to be a four-petaled sun. This four-petaled sun, in turn, finds an iconic parallel in the Egyptian windflower. According to the Coffin Texts, the windflower appeared together with Re at the time of creation. Quote, "I am the windflower which issued from Re." End of quote. It is commonly acknowledged, moreover, that the windflower is to be identified with the lotus of beginning. Quote, "The windflower is none other than the primordial lotus from which the sun emerges at dawn in the east." End of quote. Our hypothesis receives a significant measure of corroboration from the fact that analogous conceptions are evident in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica. The most common name for sun in the Mayan language was kin, the hieroglyph for which depicts a four-petaled flower. Such imagery is perfectly familiar to all Mayanists. Quote, "In Maya iconography, the sun was conventionally represented as a four-petaled flower." End of quote. According to Karen Bassi-Sweet, quote, "The implication of the kin flower cosmogram is that the red flower of the T544 sign was both the quintessential flower and a metaphor for all flowers." End of quote. Although Maya mythology is poorly represented in comparison to that from the Old World, it is significant to find that it preserves a distinct memory of the primal sun as formerly residing within a flower. According to the book of Chilumbalam, the sun god was described as follows, quote, "Fourfold was the plate of the flower, and the sun god was set in the center." End of quote. Here the Mayan sun god is explicitly described as dwelling at the center of a four-petaled flower. Considered in isolation, the Mayan traditions with respect to a four-petaled sun can only appear as incongruous and alien in nature, divorced as they are from our own experience, where flower-like forms are nowhere to be seen in the immediate vicinity of the sun. Yet when viewed in light of the cylinder seals from the ancient Near East depicting a four-petaled sun, they suddenly take on profound significance. Can anyone doubt that were such a constellation to present itself in the sky, traditions of a four-petaled sun would be certain to follow? Yet so far as I'm aware, not a single Mayanist or Egyptologist has ever entertained the possibility that the artworks and hieroglyphs in question might faithfully reflect the sun's visual appearance at some point during the distant past, as suggested by traditions such as those from the pyramid texts in the Book of Chilumbalam. Myths of creation, as stated earlier, typically serve as a divinely ordained paradigm for cultures around the globe. The ancient civilization of Egypt is no exception in this regard. The pharaoh himself was believed to incarnate Horus, the legendary first king, who was identified with the star already during the early dynastic period, circa 3000 BC. In his daily and ritual behavior, the Egyptian pharaoh purposely patterned his behavior around that of the stellar Horus as described in creation myth, from his royal crowns to his depiction at the breast of Hathor to his ritual slaughter of animals believed to embody the agents of chaos. Here it is interesting to note that the early Egyptian pharaohs were frequently depicted together with rosettes, as on the famous palette of Narmer. According to leading scholars, the rosette signifies the concept of king, or perhaps the office of kingship. Antonio Lopriano, for example, argued that the rosette denoted Horus himself as the king. Quote, "In the archaic writing, the notation of each word allows a degree of flexibility and a variety of options, with more than one concomitant writing for one concept. A possible example is offered by the rosette, HRRT, and the falcon, HRW, which are both used as alternative writings for the word HRW, Horus, i.e. the king." End of quote. It is commonly believed, moreover, that the Egyptian concept of Lord, NB, was derived by means of the rebus principle from the aforementioned word for the rosette of the beginning, i.e. WNB. Given the fact that Horus was invoked as the king of the gods already in the pyramid text and conceptualized as the first king in Egyptian history, it is understandable that scribes might see some relationship between the rosette and the office of kingship, explicitly linked to the star god himself. A very similar development is evident in the New World. Thus, in the hieroglyphic writing system of the Maya, the most common glyph for lord or king is the so-called Ahau sign. According to David Stewart, the leading expert on the Maya script, the Ahau sign can double as a signifier of flower. So too, the Ahau glyph is occasionally depicted at the center of a flower. Quote, an Ahau glyph is found at the center of some classic period T646 glyphs. Although Ahau means Lord, here it seems to be the center of a solar flower. End of quote. Already in our first jointly published article in 1984, Dave Talbot and myself emphasized the importance of anomalous images in cosmogonic myth. Quote, ancient statements appearing to contradict elementary experience or logic are key to discovery. End of quote. Some 40 years later, we are still documenting anomalies that portend a revolution in science. The image of a Horus star set atop a lotus is simply one of hundreds of similar anomalies to be found in ancient artworks and literature, not one of which will ever be explained by reference to the present solar system.